What if you held the keys to unimaginable wealth, only to see them slip through your fingers in a whirlwind of emotions and high-stakes drama? In the glamorous world of hip-hop, where fortunes can rise and fall in the blink of an eye, this very scenario unfolded with staggering consequences. Enter Sean Diddy Combs and Cassie Ventura. Their love story, once celebrated, spiraled into a tempest of betrayal, newly risen fortunes, and unimaginable tension when a hotel decided to pay Cassie a staggering $10 million. Yes, you heard that right. A $10 million check, playing the role of a wild card in a game of emotional monopoly among celebrities, elevating a story fraught with passion and power into a fever pitch. As the air crackled with allegations, revelations, and high-profile drama forged by love and loss, one question loomed larger than all others: what pushed Diddy to the brink? Imagine being in Diddy's shoes for a moment, a man adorned with lavish parties, an endless parade of luxury cars, and an entourage larger than life itself. With a reputation as a shrewd businessman and cultural influencer, his world appeared endlessly captivating. Yet beneath the curtain of glamour, the stirring thoughts of vulnerability and fear held immense power. For Diddy wasn't just witnessing fame. He was navigating emotional depths more volatile than any financial stock he owned. Cassie, his longtime girlfriend, represented a part of his identity tangled with love and ambition. Their romance unfolded like an artistic masterpiece, rife with highs and lows that turned heads across the industry. For 11 years, Cassie stood by Diddy's side, transitioning from a fresh-faced model into an empowered artist. She danced through his life like a muse. Yet the undercurrents of fame occasionally cast a shadow over their bond, creating ripples in the waters of their commitment. With a relationship inseparable from the public eye, one might argue if love could ever flourish genuinely amid such scrutiny. But then came the breakpoint, a dramatic twist of fate that would forever alter the course of their relationship. After years of emotional investments, Cassie decided to break free. Announcing her intention to end the chapters of her romance with Diddy, it was a decision that struck with the force of a tidal wave, shaking the foundations of Diddy's carefully constructed world. The question is, what goes through the mind of a man watching the love of his life slip away into the unknown? It's a psychological tug-of-war that stretches far beyond mere heartbreak. Diddy didn't just lose a partner. He faced the potential loss of his brand, reputation, and deeply rooted identity tied to Cassie. Regret intermingled with fury as he became embroiled in a storm of emotions. Anger at himself, anger at her, and the searing realization of what he stood to lose. In the aftermath of her departure, Cassie's life took an unexpected turn, one filled with newfound empowerment and financial security. The transformative moment came when a hotel sought her out, a strategic play that would forever alter her trajectory. The offer, a jaw-dropping $10 million, was an embodiment of recognition, a liberating gesture symbolizing the power of her individuality, both in the limelight and beyond. Diddy's psychological response to Cassie's triumph offers fertile ground for exploration. Emotionally charged decisions often enter the realm of cognitive dissonance. As an influential figure accustomed to wielding control, he found himself grappling with contradictory sentiments. On one hand, the common cultural narrative stigmatizes men who suddenly find themselves vulnerable to loss, his identity threatened by both Cassie's unexpected strength and financial reward. On the other hand, amidst chaos emerges an uncomfortable awakening. The fear of inadequacy may unearth qualities within, both toxic and transformative. In the weeks following Cassie's move, specters loomed in Diddy's world. Reports of his emotional volatility filled gossip columns as he hurled accusations, sought to reclaim his identity, and expressed disbelief at Cassie's departure. There's something beautifully tragic about watching a man who has achieved so much seemingly unravel under the weight of abandonment. He believed his emotional turmoil was visible to the world, creating a spectacle of vulnerability that captivated onlookers, but ultimately left him raw and exposed. In this high-stakes arena, Diddy's struggle shifts from one of romantic loss to existential crisis. The hitmaker is now caught in a cycle of anger and regret, faced with the reality of what had been. Scientists assert that revisiting memories, particularly emotionally charged ones, can amplify feelings, causing us to relive the painful narratives again and again. It's a dance between nostalgia and bitterness, where old wounds bleed anew. Diddy, a man once comfortable with the spotlight, faced an existential reckoning. The very mechanisms that propelled him to success now threatened to drag him under. Feeling betrayed and disoriented, he spiraled deeper into solitude, retreating from his usual public persona. And while Cassie stepped forward with newfound confidence, relishing in her independence, Diddy's world cracked, revealing raw fissures of vulnerability hidden beneath layers of bravado. Perhaps the most gripping element of this entire saga lies not solely in the narrative of a love lost, but in the manner in which it unfolds, how individuals navigate their identities amid fierce emotional turmoil. When news of Cassie's staggering payout broke, the drama intensified, leaving Diddy teetering on the edge of an abyss. Although Cassie's financial success seemed to represent independence, for Diddy it was the specter of abandonment that weighed heavily upon his psyche. How does a man accustomed to supreme control, wealth, and adoration cope with vulnerability in the face of his partner's booming success? The answer isn't as simple as one might assume. The multifaceted nature of relationships, love, and power dynamics often creates intricate webs that can ensnare anyone, regardless of how seemingly invincible they might appear. Diddy, no stranger to competition, grappled with feelings of inadequacy against Cassie's burgeoning success. She transitioned from his girl into an independent force worthy in her own right, but the story ran deeper than surface-level resentment. In some ways, Cassie's ascent illuminated the cracks buried within their relationship, magnifying weaknesses that had long gone unnoticed. Navigating the intricate landscape of love, identity, and power dynamics became a precarious balancing act. Refusing to fade quietly into the background, Diddy waged an emotional war, his antics behaving like erratic brushstrokes on an artist's canvas, revealing a mixture of pain and defiance. Social psychologist Brené Brown reminds us that vulnerability profoundly shapes our emotional resilience, yet many resist embracing it, often opting for denial or aggression instead. Diddy's volatility seemed to echo this struggle, yet it also raised another pressing question. What happens if we refuse to process our emotions fully and transparently in the face of heartbreak? And so, with Cassie's name whispered in the winds of the industry, Diddy's reaction sparked an unpredictable wave of responses among fans and foes alike. A recent social media tirade revealed his level of distress, characterized by exclamation-laden rants and cryptic messages laced with regret. Observers of this emotional revolution leaned in, each one captivated by the juxtaposition of power and frailty swirling around Diddy's tumultuous legacy. He became the center of a powerful cautionary tale about love, fame, and the radical shifts that capsize even the sturdiest vessels. Every time Cassie's name crossed paths with Diddy's, as it did consistently in media, his emotional barometer reset. The planet's spin tilted as he fought to evade the emotional gravity weighing him down. Struggling against emerging feelings of rejection, he hovered between an almost desperate desire to reclaim what was lost and the unmistakable pressure to evolve alongside the legacy he had created. What had been once stable began to morph into disarray as Diddy felt the inexorable pull of validation tugging at his heartstrings. Yet, here lies the plot twist. To heal is not merely to recover what was lost, but to confront the reality of the transformative experience. As Cassie basked in her newfound light, one could argue that Diddy experienced a form of liberation masked behind the veil of anger. It was as if the dense fog that once shrouded their love began to clear, illuminating a path towards self-awareness and independence of his own. While observers to the unfolding saga rummaged through every facet of their lives, dissecting their relationship through the lens of celebrity gossip, new possibilities emerged from the ashes of their love. The initial sting of betrayal that guided Diddy's fervor only illuminated a deeper truth. Sometimes loss serves as the prelude to growth. While tumult lingered, the prospect of metamorphosis loomed overhead, pregnant with potential. As whispers of Cassie's remarkable payout buzzed through the industry, Diddy faced a choice that would define not only his legacy, but also the very nature of their relationship. Would he allow the pain to consume him, or could he leverage this heartbreak to usher in a new narrative both for himself and for his partnership with Cassie? Because sometimes, within the chaos, power rests not just in reclaiming what was lost, but in the audacity to redefine one's own path. And as the stage was set, emotions rumbled and fears loomed, shifting the very axis of a once-celebrated romance into an exhilarating crescendo of change. Suddenly, the belonging Diddy had fought to keep became intertwined with the need for acceptance for a new self. As $10 million floated through the air like ghostly reminders of Cassie's liberation, Diddy found his world hanging in the balance, shot through with a terrifying sense of clarity. The veil of ownership over love crumbled, leaving behind an exhilarating uncertainty. Behind his bravado, he felt the weight of every emotional conflict rippling through his essence, begging for resolution. The deeper inquiry compelled him. What does forever look like? Because the path forward seemed fraught with unanswered questions, and the time for reckoning was upon them. Thus the question remained: would Diddy chart a course into the unknown with unwavering strength, or would he allow the storm to consume him, rendering him adrift? As the saga unfolds, captivated hearts remain caught in the tension, teetering on the edge of discovery. What happens when the glittering facade of celebrity culture crashes headlong into a tidal wave of raw emotion? When the stakes soar sky-high with a shocking $10 million payout, tensions rise and vulnerabilities are thrust into the limelight. This is not just a tale of lost love. It's an exploration of power dynamics, identity crises, and the human condition in the wake of betrayal. Diddy's world, once a shimmering metropolis of success and fame, is now a precarious place where fear and uncertainty swirl like dark clouds overhead. Months after the storm of Cassie's departure, as the dust began to settle, Diddy found himself navigating a landscape altered irrevocably, not just by the void left in his relationship, but by what Cassie's newfound independence implied about him as a man. Money, status, and adoration meant little if those around him saw him as something less than capable. The emotional upheaval rocked the foundations of his identity. Who was he now, if not the triumphant mogul with a loving partner by his side? In the electric whispers of the entertainment world, Cassie's $10 million deal acted as a catalyst, sending ripples through Diddy's psyche. Overnight, she transformed from Diddy's love interest to a formidable player on her own terms. The hotel wanted her brand, her essence. Suddenly, her voice echoed on various platforms that had once belonged to him. Yet, instead of being proud of her ascent, Diddy wrestled with demons of jealousy and inadequacy. Social psychologists note that envy often manifests from feeling inferior, like an undercurrent in turbulent waters. As Cassie thrived, hints of insecurity began to creep into Diddy's world. Imagine for a moment the very essence of your identity being challenged, the comfort of familiarity replaced by the stark reality of being outshined. Diddy grappled with the societal pressures of expectations while staring down the barrel of his own emotional reckoning. Days filled with meetings, appearances, and high-profile gatherings bled into sleepless nights, where contemplative shadows haunted him. Diddy began seeking distractions, his performances becoming increasingly frenetic, attempting to fill the void while projecting an air of unyielding confidence. But beneath the surface, he feared being viewed solely as the ex-boyfriend of an independent Cassie, the man who once reigned as both her partner and champion. Desperate to combat this fear of irrelevance, Diddy turned to his business. Even in the chaos of his personal life, he still had the uncanny ability to innovate and adapt. With an empire to protect and a brand to reinforce, he threw himself into music, fashion, and endorsements like an artist desperate to reclaim the bold strokes of his canvas. But the more he worked, the louder the specter of Cassie loomed, a constant reminder of what could have been. It's fascinating how external success often acts as the ultimate coping mechanism for internal conflict. Take, for example, the concept of hedonic adaptation, where people immerse themselves in work or pursuits to mask emotional pain. For Diddy, this was a double-edged sword. The more splendor he accumulated, the more hollow he felt inside. Work could not replace love, nor could it absolve his mind of the turbulence created by Cassie's newfound independence. Meanwhile, Cassie sipped from the cup of freedom, flourishing as an independent artist and entrepreneur. Celebrated on social media, adored by fans, She embraced the very essence of liberation. In Diddy's absence, she carved her niche with radiant authenticity, a powerful counter-narrative to his internal disarray. The hotel deal was merely the beginning. Opportunities breathed new life into her once silent ambitions, reawakening her creative spirit. While Diddy spun frantically from one project to another, Cassie began to flourish in an entirely different way, embodying the empowerment she longed for. This open embrace of her power reignited emotional complexities for Diddy. Psychologists speak of reactance theory, where individuals may feel inclined to reclaim lost autonomy with an irresistible force. As Cassie flourished, his fear of losing control spiraled out of control, unleashing uncharacteristic reactions. Rumors surfaced that he had begun to lash out at those around him, projecting frustrations that stemmed not from malice, but rather from feeling deeply and profoundly threatened. In the shadows, grappling with the tumult of emotions, was a man snarling against the tides of time. But the true treasure lies not solely in their personal lives, nor in cash flows, but in the deeper psychological truths that woven throughout the narrative. Diddy's often outrageous behavior erupted on social media, cryptic posts, rants that could send shockwaves through the entertainment community, illustrating the conflict of vulnerability against the desire to control perception. His ego battled against his heart as Cassie continually drew headlines with her successes. It is human nature to fabricate narratives of ourselves, to paint vibrant pictures of resilience, even whilst our internal landscapes become dilapidated ruins. Unfortunately for Diddy, the spotlight often showcased his inner chaos, forcing him to confront not just his pain but the public interpretation of it. You could argue that his emotional turmoil played out as a distorted reflection in a funhouse mirror, where every move he made only served to amplify and distort his already precarious existence. Yet, as the battle between self and perception unfurled, the climax of their story approached. Cassie took to her own social media platforms, sharing glimpses of her artistic journey. Captivated, fans rallied around her, rooting for her transformative arc. No longer defined by her relationship with Diddy, she emerged as a heroine of her own narrative, gradually shifting the roles in their tale from one of dependency to independence, of possession to empowerment. For Diddy, these scenes taken from the outside felt like cascading waterfalls of pain, each drop augmenting the distress that bubbled beneath him. He could feel his control slipping away further with each triumphant post from Cassie, a sense of being washed away in an emotional flood. Angry outbursts and despairing moments became deeply intertwined, each impulse revealing a longing for reconciliation. The inflections of their tumultuous history grew louder. What they had built, now a tapestry bound by frayed edges, teetering on the line between chaos and connection. And then came the moment that would serve as both a crescendo and a poignant revelation, presenting an opportunity for introspection. Amidst his chaos, Diddy found himself reflecting on their shared past, the memories woven into the fabric of his existence. It triggered a cascade of emotions. There was a spark of realization. What if he stripped away the pride and fear? What if he ventured to reconnect with Cassie, not to lay claim, but to celebrate her journey, without the shackles of expectation? Just as he embraced this possibility, the staircase of fate twisted before him. That night, as the horizon shifted from dusk to dawn, illuminating the dusky remnants of a once promising partnership, the echoes of their past crashed into the present. Friends whispered of an impending collaboration that could bridge the chasm between them, reigniting their creativity under a different light. And while the tides of emotions ebbed and flowed, swirling ever closer to a significant threshold, Diddy stood at the precipice of a critical choice. Could he gather the courage to approach her, not with a heart of longing, but with the openness of a collaborator? Could he relinquish the pain of the past and instead embrace a future buoyed by respect and admiration? As Cassie celebrated her rise, Diddy wrestled with the allure of opportunity at hand, yet wondered if he could channel the rawness of his experiences into something new. Sources began to reveal hints of their paths converging once again, whispering that behind the scenes, conversations were emerging that could reshape their story. Yet, as shadows of self-reflection danced in the background, a nearly forgotten thought flickered back to life. History has a tendency to repeat itself. Longing and career aspirations surged forward, offering both light and weight. Could there truly be a new beginning without the shadows of their past? Alternating currents of hope and uncertainty rippled beneath the surface, propelling them toward an uncertain conclusion draped with intrigue. And so, with their lives complexly intertwined, one thought lingered. Perhaps, beneath the chaos, lies the potential for healing. Perhaps, within the strife of jealousy and possession, there is room for genuine connection, and unexpected allies turned friends. As fate wove its tapestry, the true depth of their journey was yet to be unveiled, especially as two souls, each powerful in their own right, explored the mosaic of what might come next. As curtains of destiny continued to draw, illuminating the stage of possibility, the audience was left on the edge of their seats, wondering what would unfold in this grand play about love, loss, and the undeniable spirit of resilience. Would Diddy's introspection yield a new collaboration, or would the demons from their past threaten to suffocate any chance of reconciliation? The journey of these once metallic hearts becomes a masterpiece painted with vulnerability and hope, transcending the carnival of chaos woven inherently through their lives. The winds of change beckoned, but only time would unveil whether Diddy and Cassie would find their way back together or apart. As the echo of their stories lingered in the air, those watching could feel the thrilling anticipation that a new chapter awaited just beyond the horizon, waiting to be written. What if the very foundation of your emotional universe shattered just as someone else entered the stratosphere of unprecedented success? What happens to the heart of a man like Diddy when the woman he loved, the muse he cherished, suddenly receives a stunning $10 million windfall, an exclamation point punctuating their breakup? As he grapples with feelings of betrayal, confusion, and a fear of being eclipsed, this turbulent episode of love, loss, and guttering flames of ambition unveils itself against a backdrop of glitz and glamour. Months have passed since Cassie's monumental hotel deal, and while she flourished in her newfound independence, Diddy found himself caught in a tempest brewing inside, a deeply personal hurricane of pain and introspection. Picture him, alone in his expansive mansion, the walls echoing memories of their love, the light just out of reach as he wrestled with the ramifications of her success. In the world of fame and fortune, alliances shift more rapidly than sand, and Diddy was faced with the harsh reality that Cassie had transformed from a partner to a competing force in a matter of weeks. As news broke out of Cassie's stunning financial success, Diddy was on an emotional roller coaster, climbing peaks of anger before plunging into valleys of despair. How did he allow himself to slip into this chaos? Psychological theories suggest that people manifest external struggles as reflections of their internal turbulence. Thus, for Diddy, Cassie's triumph was the unflinching mirror of his insecurities. The emotional weight of feeling left behind mirrored his career, a man used to dominating charts and headlines, now feeling obscured. Each week, social media buzzed with images of Cassie's public appearances, her glowing confidence likening her to a phoenix rising from the ashes of their relationship. She wasn't just moving on, she was thriving, each step further illuminating the cracks in Diddy's carefully cultivated facade. Friends and industry colleagues noticed the shift. Diddy, once vibrant and dynamic, now wore a heavy cloak of agitation and unease. Rumors circled about his increasingly erratic behavior. He started showing up late to meetings or outright canceling, whispers of his emotional state rippling through the industry. To visualize his turmoil, imagine a ship at sea, battered by raging storms while the crew hastily attempts to patch leaks with nothing but hope. Diddy's ship, once smooth sailing, now had its hull torn open. The illusions he built of control began to crumble before his eyes. Every night seemed to stretch endlessly, each pillow soaking up thoughts that coiled around feelings of inadequacy and longing. The glaring contrast of Cassie's success intensified his feelings of despair. Would she ever turn back, or had she finally erased his imprint from her story? leaving their shared moments as mere footnotes. Dawson theory in psychology talks about emotional energies manifesting into behaviors while confronting unexpected disruptions, suggesting that how we channel feelings can unveil different facets of our identities. As Diddy struggled, his desperate efforts to reclaim his image ignited a wildfire. He became progressively erratic and vocal. Cryptic social media posts about love and loss flowed from his fingertips like lifeblood, creating performances that oscillated from heartfelt confessions to aggressive proclamations about loyalty and betrayal. Imagine the discordance. One moment, he's spiraling, confessing his vulnerabilities. In the next, he's proclaiming that he's still the king, secure in his domain. Friends watched in worry, the man they revered transforming before their eyes, navigating a terrain marked with emotional quicksand. Instead of forging a path through heartbreak, he began to thrash against it and struggle, making his plight seem futile. This raised the question, could he turn this tidal wave of emotion into something transformative? As CASSIE's star continued to rise, many wondered whether Diddy would reach deep within himself and channel his pain into creativity that would forge a new connection with his past, both with her and with himself. Resilience is often born of discomfort, and for Diddy that discomfort was maddening yet packed with potential. He could choose the path of connection or the void of isolation, and with precarious balance, the choice remained on a precarious edge. As fate would have it, one late night, Diddy found himself surrounded by some of the biggest names in the industry at an exclusive launch event. The glow of celebratory lights washed over him, and the thrill of music enveloped his senses. Yet, amid the laughter and ingrained joviality was an undercurrent of tension. He felt like a marionette held together by fraying strings, caught in the relentless movement of the evening without the rhythm of his own spirit. The music thumped like a steady heartbeat, echoing with every personal rhythm he no longer felt belonging to, a mismatch that resonated in his chest. It was at that moment, while lost in a metastasis of emotions, that he spotted Cassie across the room. Draped in a stunning ensemble, she glided through the crowd like a goddess, her aura commanding attention. Diddy felt his heart race. Images of their shared experiences flooded his mind, intimate moments and playful memories, now transformed into ghosts haunting the halls of his consciousness. Every eye in the room transitioned toward her. Here was the embodiment of his creation, yet she was seizing her narrative without him. In the midst of this emotional spectacle, the painful truth began to seep in. She was not just an echo of his past, she was a vibrant harbinger of the future he felt slipping away. Rational thought wrestled with the impulses coursing through him, and in that heart-racing climatic moment, the loud clamor of voices began to dissolve into a haunting silence where only the thudding of his pulse remained. It tore through him, a relentless reminder of the depths of his feelings. What followed was a collision of courageous vulnerability and internal conflict. Diddy, called by an energy propelled by longing, took a deep breath. He felt himself cracking open, the depths of his vulnerability bubbling to the surface. Rather than retreat into the shadows and let her parade of success signify his own downfall, he recognized this might be his moment to reclaim agency in the narrative. In a brazen effort, he approached Cassie before he could rethink it. Words danced on the tip of his tongue, raw, unscripted, guided by a blend of fear, longing, and clarity. This was not about begging or regret, but recognition and respect for her choices. Acknowledging the incredible trail she carved out for herself. To engage with her now would transcend the superficial noise that often surrounded their names. Cassie, he ventured softly, each syllable bouncing between them in a tight echo. The crowd around them faded away as they became caught in their universe, seeing each other for the first time in a long while. Her eyes sparkled, yet there was a guardedness there, a wariness that spoke volumes about the unsaid truths from their shared past. Diddy, she started, but he held up a hand. This was not a moment for apologies or defenses. It was a fragile chance to reconnect. He needed to acknowledge both his admiration for her ascent and the hurt of losing the shared symphony they once composed together. A deep breath filled his lungs as he laid pieces of himself bare. I see you. I see the strength you found in your voice. I miss the moments we shared, even while you're thriving. It's never been about competition to me. His voice quaked, going deeper than platitudes, resonating with sincerity that he hoped would reach her guarded soul. Her expression softened, and a flicker of recognition sparkled in her eyes, a thread of the connection they had before she had found her wings. What could have been a simple acknowledgement became an exchange of healing, a reluctant release of everything that had shackled them both. Just as the walls between them began to crack, it became evident that they could unlock something new and transformed. The crowd surged back into their orbit as conversations flickered back to life around them, yet the profound silence enveloping Diddy and Cassie created a pocket of intimacy amid chaos. It demonstrated how confronting raw emotions could forge a deeper realization about past love's complexities, guiding them beyond desires for simplistic definitions. However, it remained clear, their journey was far from over, teetering on a precipice filled with uncertainties. Could they reconcile their past while forging a new horizon? Would he, now holding the key to vulnerability, grasp the branching pathways of potential rebirth? Or would the storms of doubt, fear, and jealousy drag them back into the whirlpool of their previous relationship? As they faced one another suspended in an emotional dance, both aware that external narratives pulsed around them, an unpredictable energy hummed through the air, giving way to the possibility of revival. The possibilities were unfurling before them, each facet reflecting the myriad of choices that laid ahead, an opportunity not just for healing, but for redefining. In this critical moment, they held the power to shape a narrative that embraced both their shared history and the promise of newfound discoveries. Yet, as their moment of connection hung vibrantly alive amidst the chaos, the looming question remained: could their hearts unite again under the banners of mutual respect and admiration? Or would the emotional scars of their pasts act as insurmountable barriers? As the echoes of change reverberated around them, one potent truth crystallized: the future remained unwritten. And in the heart of two souls, standing on the brink of transformation, the tale of Diddy and Cassie continued to evolve, not just as broken-hearted lovers, but as steadfast individuals glimpsing a new path, stitched together by strength and vulnerability. As the tempest swirls around them, the world held its breath, longing to see whether they could harness the energy of their complicated love in a daring bid for rebirth, or each drift farther into the waters of what could have been. In the end, their story could prove once more that the truest form of love does not else reside in ownership or possession, but within the beauty of uplift, respect, and the courage to embrace the unknown together. And now, only time would unravel the answer. Would they become co-authors of the next chapter? Or would their journeys take them down separate paths, once and for all?